clear. We hope that a new regime will come to pass in Hungary. We hope that Orban will finally be brought to justice in the future, as he was the first European leader to go to Putin, crawl on his knees to his master Putin, and shake his bloody hand. He bloodied his own hand with that, and that should never be forgotten and never be forgiven. But my friends, our main message here is not only the condemnation of those who are traitors to the free world, but most importantly, it is a message of unity amongst friends, amongst allies, amongst those who know what's going on right now, who know the terrifying nature of the Russian terrorist regime, and that can only be stopped together. All together, we will win.
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 Russia is a terrorist state.
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 Stop Russia, stop the war.
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 Tribunal for Russian war criminals.
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 Seize Russian assets.
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 No trade with Russia.
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 You know, my friends, sometimes I'm asked the question, why is it that the EU is still trading with Russia with their gas? Why is it that Russian oil still circulates the world? Why is it that the United Kingdom, even this great country that has been so supportive of Ukraine, why is it still helping the shadow fleet remain afloat? Why is all of that happening? The answer to that, my friends, is quite simple, really. It's because of self-serving politicians who are too scared to do the right thing, too scared to do what needs to be done because they're afraid of the backlash for a controversial decision. Russia should have been cut off from world trade long ago. However, nobody wants to get their hands dirty. Nobody wants to do the job that Ukraine has been doing. Nobody wants to send their own military, and obviously so, to a war like this one, a full-scale war. Putin does not care how many losses it sustains. But if a European military had 10,000 losses, even something as low as that, there would be protests all over the street. But in Russia, they don't care. That's the main reason, my friends. If somebody says no more trade with Russia, that's it, we're cutting them off. Obviously, some prices would go up, and some foolish individuals would complain. They would say, oh, you know, why are we doing this? This is not our war. Well, my friends, the problem with foreign conflicts involving the allies of each country is that if your allies lose, then this supposedly foreign war can very quickly become local, can very quickly reach this country itself in its scope and its consequences. It's a very sad thing indeed to see self-serving politicians prefer to stay in power instead of doing what needs to be done. Quite a disgusting view, if you ask me, my friends. But alas, here we are once again, telling the world, speaking with people, interacting with people about what's really going on in Ukraine. And yet, continuously, we hear the same silly points again. Oh, but Ukraine is so corrupt. How are you, my friend? Got a question? No, not quite. That's fair. We always welcome people to participate, to ask a question if they like, to participate in whatever way they want. How are you, my friend? You okay? Who? I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. He's showing something big. I don't know, some big issue. But I'm not sure which big issue we're talking about. I'm afraid we have to speak up if we want to be heard. But thank you for your participation. I appreciate it. Now, my friends, truth be told, as we have said before, the solution to this war is very simple. A complete embargo on Russia. All of the support to be given to Ukraine, all the support necessary to destroy the Russian military. Do this, and the war would be over in a month, perhaps less. Look at Iran. They're getting destroyed. And this is what it means to have the full support of the free world, the full support of the United States. Why does Ukraine not have this support? I'll tell you why, my friends. It's because fools still think they have something to gain by negotiating with Russia. Because fools still think that siding with a psychopath is going to be beneficial for them. Because fools still think that if they just leave an important issue to the next administration, then it might just magically disappear. But it will not. Russia will not magically disappear, not without our help. And that is exactly what we should be doing together. Making sure that the Russian terrorist regime disappears forever. And the reality is, it is a very much tangible, very much real possibility. But not if the free world remains divided. Not if the free world remains stupid because of Russian propaganda. My friends, one of the most important messages we say here is that this cause is not charity. This cause is self-preservation for this country, for France, for Germany, for Poland, for all of Europe. Russia is an existential threat on every level to Europe and the free world. Russia is a psychopathic regime that continues to expand and cares not at all for any kind of value, much less for something as noble as the British values. They care not about that. There's only one value in Russia. That value is might makes right. And they are planning to expand that value so generously to the rest of the world. To expand the Ruski Mir, the Russian peace and the Russian world, to countries who want to have nothing to do with it. Thank you, my friend. That is the problem, my friends. Russia is not an isolationist regime, but isolationism is rising in Europe. We see the AfD, we see Le Pen's party on the rise. How stupid, how foolish for people who claim to be patriots and defendants of their country to be encouraging alliances with foreign psychopathic powers like Russia. How idiotic, how self-destructive. And yet, here we are again. Because the people who vote for such parties, very unfortunately, they have not been made aware about the true nature of Russia. They think, oh, you know, what does it matter if Ukraine has to give up a few more regions to Russia? It's no skin of my nose. Well, my friends, not yet. But the time will come. If Russia wins this war, Russia will come for the rest of Europe. From Vladivostok to Lisbon. This is what they perpetually say on their state-owned propaganda television. From Vladivostok to Lisbon. Now, for those who are not very geography savvy, Vladivostok is a big city on the opposite side of Russia, far away into the east. And Lisbon is the westernmost capital of Europe. That is what they say openly. This is not a secret that they plan to keep expanding. And every single time somebody tells you, oh, but it's so expensive to help Ukraine, oh, but we can't be doing that. Ask them a simple question. What will happen if Ukraine falls? The problem becomes exacerbated. The problem becomes bigger, more dangerous, more brazen, far braver than before, and Russia will continue to move on into the West. That is what will happen, my friends. So, in order to avoid a direct confrontation between Russia and the rest of Europe, of the EU, of NATO, it is of paramount importance to help Ukraine win this war and stop the Russian military before it reaches the rest of Europe. That is by far the absolute best case scenario. That is what should have been done long ago, and yet here we are again. But that should not stop people from telling the truth. For if people are not told the truth, then they will start believing in lies. That is why everybody who knows that truth should speak up, should say it to people and inform them, so that everybody has the possibility of making an informed decision based on knowledge, on reality, and not on feelings and Russian disinformation. That is what we stand here for, my friends, to interact with the people, to tell them what's going on in Ukraine, to ask them humbly for their support, because this is not charity, this is not just for Ukraine, this is the self-preservation of the free world, and we do not want to see any other nation suffer the fate Ukraine has suffered. That is why it's so important to help Ukraine win and stop the evil Russian terrorist regime now. Thank you very much. Stop Russia, stop the war.
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 Fight the jets for Ukraine.
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 Air defense 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 for Ukraine.
Long-range missiles 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 for Ukraine.
Let Ukraine strike back.
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 The Operation Spiderweb was a sign of what Ukraine could potentially do with the right armament. If the free world gave Ukraine everything that's needed to put the Russian terrorist regime's military down for good, it would be an easy task for the Ukrainian military to do as such, but we're still not there because many politicians are too self-serving to realize that this is a good they would do to their own country. What use do any European countries have for their weapons when there are no direct wars happening? None. Except, of course, to keep terrorist regimes like Russia at bay. But as long as Russia cannot overcome Ukraine, they will be unable to effectively invade any other European country. That's a fact. So why not help Ukraine put down the Russian military now and forever? And with that, stop their expansion and stop any kind of future threat for the Russian terrorist regime to invade the rest of Europe, as they so many times have advertised in the past.
Оксаночка з Вінниці, ти тут?
This is the best case scenario. It's a match made in heaven, you could say. The last match. We're still in hell. How are you? Thank you.
Marius, sveiki, sveiki, mes irgi palaikom Izraelį.
Now, my friends, just as a reminder, our rallies happen here, 10 Downing Street.
Героям слава, Маріо. Iš kokio miesto būsi?
And on Sundays at 3 o'clock. Please come and join us. It's very good to see you people join us. You know, don't worry, this is not a religious procession. You can come here, speak with the lovely people we have in our crowd, ask them a couple of questions, ask me. I don't mind answering questions from the crowd. In fact, we like doing that. Because people need to be aware. And for people to be aware, the ones who send the message need to be ready to answer questions. Need to be ready to send that message in a way that people will appropriate, in a way that people will understand. So that is why we're here, that is why we do this. And thank you all for coming here to support us. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава, слава, слава!
Ворогам України, тричі.
Смерть, смерть, смерть!
So once again, for anyone willing, you're free to join us. And now, my friends, we're going to have a short musical break.
Вітаю, хлопче. Вітаю.
Добре.
Супер. Все тут супер.
Як?
Пишуть.
Ну як завжди. Слава Аллаху. Прикольно.
It's like WhatsApp.
Це йому треба якийсь
Слава Україні!
більший волонтерський центр.
Слава нації!
Україна, в принципі, сама працює, от вона одна. Я їй допомагаю.
Героям України
Збираю.
тричі!
Так вона до нас збирає. Ну, звісно, їй допомагають, там, ну, в нашому селі, там, як я казати. І
You know, my friends, last time when we
той, хто
came
допомагає
here,
багато. Ну,
we
що-
had the unfortunate surprise to see some people with
не знаю,
Ayatollah
я-
Iranian flags
Я,
parading
звичайно,
around the street.
мені
It's a
не
very
проблема
unfortunate
дати.
sight to behold, and we hope that people will know better than to support the
А сам
Iranian
поїдеш
Ayatollah regime,
потім
as that is
після
our
Я трошки
history,
пізніше.
and it needs to
Я
be
щас
condemned
не
as
можу.
such universally by any person,
Це ж канікули
independently of
будуть.
their political
А
stance,
тут троє
independently of their
внуків, і надо,
political
ну, жінка не
worldview.
потягне просто.
Now, our cause is usually seen as a cause of
А планую
moderation, a cause
їхати
that's
туди,
usually
і
supported
я
by
на фронт
centrists.
поїду, скоріше
Because,
всього, з нею.
funnily enough,
Я так
both the
думаю,
far
що
right and the far left
десь
support
в
Russia.
вересні.
I know it
do
sounds
this
pretty
summer, yeah?
silly. However, when you listen to the Russian propaganda, they pedal to the extremes, not to the moderate people,
Може,
not
вона
to the
щось
reasonable
підскаже.
people, but to the extreme people.
Because I have to do
They say that Ukraine is some kind of a cabal of Zionists to the far left, rather to the far right. To the far left, they say Ukrainians are Nazis. But the truth of the matter is, those 2 points, they contradict each other.
Portugal guy
They do not work well each other. But Russia does not care. Russia will always tell the far right, oh, you know, Ukraine
Він
is
може
ruled by the Jews and
попереписуватися,
every
а вона
issue
там
is because of the
попереводить.
Jews. They will tell the far left, oh, Ukraine, it's a bunch of Nazis.
We have
Evil Nazis all over
phone
the place.
number if you wanna write to
And it
this
actually works. With a lot
this
of people,
woman,
it works.
Lesia.
You know, when we
Lesia.
came to counter-protest
Try write
against
English
the
or
Щас.
Fatliks on 9th of May,
do photo.
we asked them a very simple
Вона
question.
зараз в Донеччині, так?
Whose side was the
Ні, вона
Soviet
з
Union
Києва,
on
з-під
when
Києва.
World
І
War
живе вона
II began?
тут, родом
Whose
вона з
side were
Западної
they on?
України, по-моєму, родом. А живе
They
в
want
Києві,
to
ну під
answer.
Києвом. там.
They started talking about Ukrainian Nazis and
вона
about how Russia beat
2-3 рази в
fascism.
місяць вона
But they
їздить
never mentioned the
туди,
fact that at the
Донбас.
beginning of World War II, Russia on the same side as the Nazis,
have
attacking
Italian
Poland
passport, yeah?
from the east as the Nazis were attacking Poland from the west. Hitler and Stalin, you see, they signed a treaty. It's called
Do
the
for the maybe
Molotov-Ribbentrop Treaty. With that treaty, they split Poland in half, half to the Soviet Union, half to Nazi Germany. It was a match made
May I
in
ask
heaven.
something?
Truly,
Are you from?
Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union
America.
are equal
California, United
in
States.
terms of
Who
their
is that in the
genocidal tendencies.
Is that him?
No.
But it was not an alliance that survived for very long. You
support
see, Hitler,
Trump?
ever since the
Absolutely.
beginning, he was already planning the Operation Barbarossa.
Embarrassing.
But Stalin, he begged
I
Hitler
supported
many
Ukraine.
times to
Very
let
nice.
him join
Very nice.
the Axis powers directly, to let him become
wanna
full-fledged
ask something
ally of
or
Nazi
you
Germany.
can
That's what
say
Stalin
something
wanted.
or
That's what the
just
Soviet
listen?
Union wanted. They loved what the Nazis were doing. They wanted more
Listen.
of that. They wanted to be part of it. Before World War II even began, the Soviets were giving to the Nazi Germans everything they needed to build up their military-industrial complex. They gave them iron to create weapons. They gave them oil to fuel their
Instagram,
tanks.
tak?
They gave them
And
the grain they
Instagram.
stole from the Ukrainian people, and they sold it to the Nazis in order to fuel their soldiers.
She from London and she coming back to Kiev and she volunteering
This is not
2-3
something
times per
widely
year,
known.
4 times per
People
year.
still have this silly idea that the Soviet Union, it was a very, very big enemy of Nazi Germany. Not true. Not true.
Instagram, yeah?
This country was an enemy of Nazi Germany
Alright.
ever since the beginning of World War II
Try
and until
here.
the end of that war.
Скажи, він
This country
Італіянець,
stood its ground
так, він каже, що
ideologically
хоче
ever since
заволонтерити
the
і
beginning, but not
поїхати
the
в
Soviet
Україну.
Union, my friends.
І він
Make
шукає,
no mistake,
хто може
Russia was the
допомогти.
best
так
for the
він що
Nazis
хоче
at the beginning of
там
World War II.
залишитись і волонтерити.
And that should be something that people learn with.
На
But
неділю,
alas, they
мабуть.
have not
А,
learned
отак
the
от,
seeds.
може
Because
бути.
many people
Може
still
бути.
say this stupid idea, oh, you know,
Може
Russia
бути.
beat fascism. Nonsense.
Я перший раз
Russia
як
loved
поїхав.
its alliance with fascism until fascism bit
Я
it
до
in its
ну це наше
behind.
село. Ну ти в
And
курсі.
right now,
що це саме.
as
І
usual, Russia
організували,
loves its
допомагає
alliance
односельчанам.
with its
Все,
bad
вона в
Nazis.
теробороні,
In the
вона теж в
Wagner
теробороні
Group, in the
була.
Sparta
І з нею
Battalion,
там
in
і мені
Russia.
допомагають теж з
All of
тероборони.
these
Вони всі час
neo-Nazi
тероборони
battalions
зараз.
fight for Russia against Ukraine. They were all
І я
sent
їм
there by
допомагав.
Russia.
Але я їх не
In this
знав.
operation that the
В
Russians
нашому
call
там маєтку, київський
denazification of
маєток
Ukraine.
там 10 років.
Can
всього.
anybody
Ми там не
see
знаємо друг
something
друга.
weird
всі
in
там.
this sentence?
Я їм
Russia
допомагав, а тоді
sent
приїхав.
entire
А вона
battalions
мене
of
не знає
Nazis
теж. Я кажу, я
to
вам
denazify
допомагаю
a
все время.
country.
Візьміть мене,
Now, that
там,
is
я ж,
funny.
ну, наче, я
It would
там
have been
буду
even
вам
funny if
донатити.
it
все.
weren't so sad.
Вона мене не знає перший раз.
But the
Я кажу, ну
problem is,
давайте
my
так,
friend, some
беріть
people
мене
still believe in
туристом, я
that kind of
2000
stuff.
вам оплачу
Some
білети,
people
на
still
бензин там і
believe
все
that
таке.
Russia is the
Беріть
good
мене
guy.
туристом, я організую
Very
вам
few in this country
військовий
want
туризм.
to do so.
Ну
Because
так,
the
уже,
people of this country, they
просто
understand
попасти.
very well what it
І
means to
це. Ну
appease
ото вона мене так взяла. Ми
a
тільки так
psychopathic regime like
10
Nazi
хвилин були
Germany
знайомі.
or like
Ну
Russia.
рискнула, це ж відповідальність, вона військову
But our
частину
message remains the
незнайомого
same.
брати. Ну мені
Unity
рекомендацію
above
там
all.
дали, я там
Unity
на
amongst
стовпці знайомий був.
friends. Unity amongst the free
Свободі
world.
весь.
Unity amongst
Так, я з ним
Europeans. You stand
спілкування
up to the
підтримував,
Russian
знав,
terrorist
так.
regime. You stand up
І ото
to
він
the
так
Iranian
трошки
terrorist
сказав,
regime,
що
the
можна
Ayatollah
брати.
terrorist regime in
А
Iran.
було таке, я
Stand
кажу,
up to the
візьміть
North
мене як
Korean
туриста.
terrorist regime.
Я іноземний,
That is
іноземний
what's
те саме,
necessary.
ну як
For
частково
unity.
підданий.
Do not trust individuals.
І ото все-таки
Preach
вона
and
взяла, ми
shout
тоді
and
здружилися,
scream
ну я
about this unity.
я
Who
щас
want
я донати збираю
isolation.
зараз.
Who say, oh no, we
Постійно
don't
донати
need any
відправляю,
deals with the EU, we
якби,
don't need any deals
зарубіжна
with Europe.
філія.
Foolishness. absolute
Це
foolishness.
село на Донеччині?
Deals with
під Києвом.
Europeans are
Це
done
Київська
on
Борчарівка,
equal,
під Києвом.
equal terms.
Ну там як село?
They're not like deals done with
Маленьких
China.
домів немає,
They are
тільки
not
великі.
like deals
Ну,
done with
трошки
the
там
Trump
є, було село
administration,
1700,
which we cannot trust to do the right thing right now.
Це Київська Борчарівка, офіціально
We
село.
need deals with
Але
those we can
застройка
trust,
все
with
сучасне
those
там.
who have proven themselves
Вітаю.
by siding with the free world,
3
through thick and
кілометри
thin,
от самий.
by doing
Від
what's
Києва,
right, no
від
matter
окружної Київської.
what that entails.
Але отак варіант,
Soviet
якщо я просто
Union. And
він
now
хоче
the
поїхати,
Russian terrorist
ну
regime
я думаю,
is
чим більше
clearly
він
not
хоче
an
задонати,
entity
щось буде
we can negotiate
допомагати,
with.
там,
It
щось
is not
грузити,
an
розгрузити, це така
that we can
фізична
bargain
робота,
with.
така
And
доволі
any attempt to do as such is self-destructive. Russian terrorist regime needs
Ну
to
це
be
ж як
put
це
down
і
for good
довіри, а ти його давно
and
знаєш.
forever.
Та він сюди ходить.
That
Та я
is
теж
the
бачу,
only
що
solution to this problem.
Ну, якщо
That
вона
is the only
відважиться
way
взяти
for us
отак.
to achieve peace at
Ну,
long
йому ще
last.
рекомендацію якусь треба
But of
дати.
course,
Ну,
individuals like
вони
Orban and
можуть
Fitzo and Tucker
попереписувати з
Carlson
нею.
and many
Він
others,
по-англійськи
like
пише,
George
вона там
Galloway or
переводить
Jeremy
і
Corbyn in this
спілкуватись
country.
можна, звичайно. А
they
там уже
consistently support the enemy. They
якщо
consistently
знайдуть,
support
якщо
what's
вона
wrong.
його возьме, то
Support terrorists, such as the Russian
я
terrorist
думаю, там
regime.
спілкування
I remember
буде.
very well
Ну, а може і знає англійську.
when the Ukrainians did Operation Spy the
Освіта
Web.
вища.
George Galloway was one of the first people to
Як це, я
start
думаю, знає. А
complaining
може
about
і
it
добре
on
знає.
Twitter.
Ну, це,
He started going on about, oh, you know, this is like the Pearl Harbor for Russia. Now the Russians will retaliate. Now they are forced to do as such. What a stupid man indeed. Forced to retaliate. This is a war.
а він тут як народився?
Imagine
тут,
you're in a
тут,
boxing
в Іран
match.
приїхав, да?
And you hit the other guy in a way that he starts reeling from the punch. Should you be condemned for that? Of course not. It's a boxing match. It's a fight. If you don't fight with intent to win, you will lose always, independently of the strengths and weaknesses of your enemy. You will lose.
Добре, я попробую. Може, що
And in this
вийде.
case,
Може, він їй щось
The
допоможе.
free world cannot
Може, там
win
якраз
against
потрібна
Russia
буде
unless
допомога.
it sets its mind to the task to put Russia down for good. That needs to be the objective at the end of the road. We need to give Russia the treatment that the Ayatollah regime in Iran is getting. That's what's necessary. To finally put your enemies down and prevent them from attacking. That is how you win. That is how you achieve peace. But if you give up all of the initiative to your enemies, if you allow them to do as they
Марина
please,
Коваленко, дуже
if you allow
дякую.
them to attack who they please, and start and end the wars they want as they please, then how can the free world win? It will never win like that. Only by staying together. Only by opposing the likes of the Russian terrorist regime together. Only by putting them down for good together. That, my friends, is our message here today. That is our message always. And we welcome anyone who wants to join us, who wants to interact with us, ask a question perhaps, to do as such. You see, these rallies are unique in that regard. Many rallies happen here in London, many rallies happen all over the world. People
Вітаю.
speak,
Вітаю.
nobody else interacts. If somebody asks something or shouts, they just ignore it.
А де шлях?
Not us. We like
Я
to
дослухаю.
interact with the crowd. We like to ask questions and answer
Хто на
questions.
фото?
Because it's very important that people have their
Что там
questions
говорят наши
answered.
пидоры?
It's very important that people
Марина, это ты
realize
тест на IQ за всю страну сдавала?
right now.
Хочеш
Stop
сказати?
the Russian terrorist regime
Пісня зараз буде.
to help the shield of Europe, Ukraine, the shield of the free world to prevail against the Russian terrorist regime. That is the only feasible path towards
Москва.
a better
Что вы
future.
русской мову
And that's why we are here,
заговорили?
facing everybody who might be willing to speak to us, answering
Бач,
questions,
Львов
speaking
без
to people.
Бендери.
That is the value of freedom of expression. We highly respect. One of
Це на
many
Ютубі.
values of this country. And it should be cherished. Because in some countries, like Ayatollah Iran, like the Russian terrorist regime, like North Korea, like CCP's China, people are not allowed to speak what they want to say. Never. They face severe consequences. Truly. Sometimes we get cynical leaders.
Ти
Like
звідкіля,
Idi
хлопче?
Amin. He had a very
Я
interesting
з Києва.
catchphrase.
З Києва, так?
Idi Amin, also known as the butcher of Africa, used to say, I can grant freedom of speech, but I cannot grant freedom after speech. What a cynical individual. It is an interesting quote. It shows you the mentality of an authoritarian leader. He does not care about things like freedom of the press, freedom of speech, the ability to care of it and put the facts and hands on the table. He does not care about any of that. They want a post-truth society, like the one that has been created in Russia. That is why we should oppose it. Because Russia plans to spread that post-truth society, that world without reality, without the truth, to the rest of the world. That is what they plan for all of you, my friends. And the choice, whether to live in reality or to live in an imaginary world dictated by oligarchs who have not a single interest in this world to protect you and your rights, that is the choice of each and every single one of you.
Слушай, Артем, какой орешник? Вы помогли орешникам, там, Ирану? Хоть кому-нибудь помогли? Сирии? Какой, блядь, орешник? Извините за мой французский.
Help Ukraine, protect peace! Help Ukraine, protect peace!
Help Ukraine, protect peace!
Help Ukraine, protect peace!
Help Ukraine, protect peace!
Arm Ukraine, as you promised!
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 Stop Russia, stop the war!
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 Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Ворогам України тричі!
Смерть! Смерть! Смерть!
And now, my friends, we're going to have another short musical break.
Нема пісні?
Я ж можу, не підключається в мене цей. У мене не підключається цей.
слава! Смерть ворогам! Понад усе! Понад усе! Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Слава України тричі!
Смерть! Смерть! Смерть!
My friends, there's been a very interesting idea passed around here about this current war between Iran and Israel. And what does it truly mean for the Russo-Ukrainian war? Well, obviously, the terrorist Ayatollah regime in Iran is a close ally of the Russian terrorist regime. That's the first step to learning that truth. We need to acknowledge that. Secondly of all, in Iran there's a huge movement against the government. Most people are really not happy with what their government is doing. In fact, many people went out to protest against the Ayatollah terrorist regime, and they have been attacked with bullets, with gas, with water jets, with beatings and torture by the terrorist Ayatollah regime. Now, as said by Pahlavi, the king of Iran, who had to flee Iran from the Ayatollah regime, Khomeini, the leader of the Iranian Ayatollah regime, Ayatollah Khomeini, he is hiding right now. Once again, this is where all the jokes about him being in Russia soon come from. It could be true soon, but we will see. Now, the truth of the matter is that one important facet of this conflict that has been floated around is that the oil prices might actually rise with this whole new war in the Middle East. That's poorly for Ukraine because Russia declared to be expensive to export and earn enough money for their war. What is it then? Is this good news for Ukraine or bad news? Well, my friends, honestly, I would say that at the end of the day, Russian ally getting a bloody nose is always good news. North Korea, Iran, doesn't matter. If they are put down, that's good news for the free world, that's good news for Ukraine. But of course, the oil situation is very difficult to deal with. The best case scenario would probably be if Saudi Arabia starts producing more oil to compensate for the loss of Iranian oil in the market. If their regime truly collapses, which it should. Hopefully it will collapse soon enough. Hopefully there will be a regime change in Iran, which will completely reshuffle international politics. Thank you very much. Thank you. And will make the Russian terrorist regime lose a very important ally, which is what the free world should strive for. The free world should not simply stay on the sidelines and hope that their enemies will bite the dust. The free world should act, should do what's necessary to make that happen. And only rhetoric is not enough. Lately, we've been hearing some pretty bad rhetoric from some of the allies, like for example Orban and Fico. But let's be honest, those are mostly just Trojan horses within the EU. They're not real allies. But this country has always been a close ally of Ukraine, and for that we're very grateful. And we're grateful to every country that has helped, thank you very much, thank you ladies, that has helped Ukraine as much as they did, because at the end of the day, it needs to be understood by everybody, thank you, that this war will have consequences for this country and for all of the rest of Europe, no matter the result. And we hope that Russia will lose so that the rest of Europe does not have to suffer as Ukraine has suffered. We hope nobody else will have to suffer like Ukraine has. And we think that that is a high likelihood if we stay together. Thank you, Britain!
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 All together, we will win!
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 World, wake up!
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 But of course, my friends, every single situation, every single thing that happens on the world stage could have benefits and could have downsides. And this situation is no different. A collapse of the Ayatollah regime is, at the end of the day, a network positive. It is a positive thing that would happen in the world. However, there are risks that need to be considered. We need to make sure that the new regime that comes in Iran, if the current regime collapses, should not be some kind of an extremist Islamic regime or some kind of a communist regime or a fascist regime or whatnot. Instead, it should be a regime that's closely aligned with the free world. And the free world should have a hands-on approach for this to happen. Russia was allowed the freedom to choose their leaders and to choose their path towards the future after the collapse of the Soviet Union. That has been a mistake. Russia should not have had that right. Russia should not have had that freedom. Russia, of course, scarred by its terrorist past, has made the wrong decision once again. No more. We should not give freedom to such entities to act as they please in a vacuum of power. Instead, we should have a hands-on approach to the next regime in Russia, the next regime in Iran, the next regime in North Korea. No more hoping for the best and sitting on our hands and hoping things happen as they should be. That will not happen. The enemies of the free world will not simply implode, not without our help. And that is what should be our objective, our common objective. To beat the enemies of the free world, to beat the Russian terrorist regime, the Ayatollah terrorist regime, the North Korean terrorist regime, and all of their proxies. That should be the objective. I never tire of saying this, my friends, but our cause is not a cause of charity. This is not a cause of, oh, let's just save the poor people who are dying. That's not the only reason why we are here. Yes, people are dying. Yes, innocents are dying. Yes, they don't deserve it. But that is only one of the many arguments we put on the table. The most important argument is different. The most important argument is not to just save the innocent. The most important argument is to help Ukraine so that you help yourself and prevent Russia from being able to challenge you in the future. That is the most important argument we have here today and every day. We come here to 10 Downing Street on Wednesdays at 6 and Sundays at 3 o'clock. The truth of the matter is, my friends, unity brings strength. This unity brings weakness. We cannot listen to isolationist populists like Orban and Fico. We cannot listen to any of these Trojan horses within Europe. We need close relations with our good allies in Europe, with people who look at this country as an equal and not as a puppet, not as a sidekick, not as someone who can be bullied around and forced to do as they please. No more of that. This country has a history of initiative and of leadership. It should continue with that kind of worldview. An initiative for this country is in dire need. We hope that the current government will do the right things. And we also hope that this country will not fall prey to populism. And the rising populism is being very visible right now in Europe, especially in France and Germany. Funnily enough, the two most important countries that this country has to deal with, some of the most important countries on which the defense of Europe rests. Poland is on the rise as well. However, Poland is no Germany, no France, and no the United Kingdom. Ukraine has a very developed military right now, and there should be more investment in it. In fact, yes, lady, with the money of this country, with the money of every country that should do the right thing for itself and prevent itself from having to engage in a direct confrontation with Russia. Let me ask you something. Do you think that if Ukraine falls, Russia will stop? I do not hear any answer this time. I wish I did. But the truth of the matter is, the answer is of course not. Russia will not stop. And what next? What next? Is it better for this great country to invest its money in a better future for itself, to prevent itself from having to get its own hands dirty with a disgusting Russian terrorist regime and help Ukraine put it down for good? Or is it better instead to save a few coins here and there now and have to face the Russian terrorist regime head on in the future? What is the better decision for this country? Let me ask every single one of you, my friends. Well, perhaps people should think before saying with our money. They should think what that money is. They should think about the promises made in the past, like the Budapest Memorandum, where this country, alongside with many others, has promised to help maintain Ukrainian sovereignty in the face of the Russian terrorist regime. It's a very much reductionist argument to say, not my country, my money shouldn't go there. Very reductionist. No country in this world can exist in a vacuum. No country in this world is separated fully from the rest of the world, not even North Korea. Even they have relations with the rest of the world. Look at how they sent their own troops to fight for the Russians against Ukraine. North Korea is not fully isolated. It has their own allies, their own buddies, fellow terrorist regimes, of course. But the truth of the matter is, my friends, this country needs to care for its foreign influence. Because without that foreign influence, a country is blind, deaf, and dumb. It will never be able to stop a real threat from reaching it until it happens. So it's far better to maintain a sphere of influence abroad for this country instead of giving up on all of that in exchange of what? Of this stupid argument, oh, you know, we don't waste our tax money. Like what Trump is saying nowadays. America is losing its most powerful asset, its most powerful boon, its allies. It is not the American military, it is not the American Air Force or their Navy or even their economy. It's none of that. That's their biggest asset, their biggest power. Their biggest power has always been their allies. You know why, my friends? Because it has been their allies who are on the front line, not the Americans. But with no more allies, America will be on the front line. American cities will be leveled to the ground. American towns will be erased from the face of the earth. With no more allies. That is what the MAGA crowd are bringing up to themselves out of stupidity, of not understanding that supporting those who are on your side and who are keeping your enemy at bay is in your best interest. What a stupid worldview indeed, with our money. Yes, indeed. It's much better to sacrifice your own people, your own cities, your own land, than to invest some of your money into helping your allies to keep the enemy at bay, right? Wrong. Of course. But this is widely known already, my friends. And it's very sad to see people sometimes make this false conclusion that, oh, you know, not our country, not our money. It shouldn't concern us. What a foolish point to make. Do people truly think that this country is self-sufficient? That this country produces everything it needs to live? The US and Russia are perhaps the closest countries that come to self-sufficient. But even they need world trade. Even they need allies. Even they need help from abroad. But this country is not as such. It doesn't have everything it needs. It has good friends, good allies all over the world, people who respect it. And that is what this country should rely on. Good relations with its allies, good relations with its friends, good relations with those who respect them and who see them as
Марина
equals.
Коваленко, вітаю ще раз. Дуже
Not
дякую.
this isolationist idiocy of saying, oh, you know, whatever happens outside our borders doesn't concern us. Stupid. Very stupid. We hope that the people who think that that is a good point to make, oh, you know, not with our money, not our war, that these people will speak up. We don't mind facing their arguments head on. We don't mind it at all. But the problem is, my friends, just like you've seen the other lady a while ago do, she said something to her nose, she walked away immediately. I wish these people had the decency to stick around, and put their money where their mouth is, proverbially, and actually stick around with their argument to defend it. But alas, that is not the case. As our opposition doesn't really have a point to make. They don't really have a good argument. All they have are these catchphrases that they get from the Kremlin propaganda machine here and there. Oh, Ukraine is corrupt. Oh, it's our tax money. Oh, but what about the nukes? Oh, but what about Stepan Bandera? All they know is these catchphrases. They can never elaborate on a single one of them. And every single time we engage in a discussion with them, the whole argument they make collapses. Because there is no argument. They are just hollow platitudes, hollow catchphrases that they throw at your face, hoping you will get angry. So we should not get angry. Instead, we should know how to answer these arguments, these points. We should not avoid discussion with the wider crowd, as we always welcome them to participate in our rallies, to ask a question, to join us. And that is how it should be, so that we can appeal to the people, not only to those who support us, but also to those who do not yet know the truth, to those who are being misinformed by the Russian terrorist regime. Some of those people may change their minds, and we hope that they will be open-minded enough to understand that everybody can be mistaken. And there's no problem with being mistaken, but there is a problem with insisting on the mistake even when proof is given that that is a mistake. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Ворогам України тричі!
Смерть! Смерть! Смерть!
Now, my friends, we'll have another short musical break.
Чекаємо.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Today I want to talk about the change in Ukrainian army and in Ukraine itself. Last Sunday I already made this announcement, but this time I'm repeating it again. As Ukrainian nomad who regularly returns home, I see the difference. I have never seen us to be this Ukrainian before. If you compare our society now to what it was 3 years ago, you'll see the real change. From the language we speak to the battles we fight not only against the enemy outside, but with the one within. Now in Ukraine, we often see headlines in news that another corrupt has been caught. And I often ask people what they see when they read this news. Do they see, oh, corruption is everywhere, or finally, we are fighting it? Both of these bubbles are matter, but what is more dangerous to see the only one? The same thing I can say about the front line. Yes, I do have many friends and even relatives who serve, and all of them have different stories. Some people see only the bad, and other people can notice the good. And there are people who turn bad things into something good. And that is my friend and our defender, Evgen Kuchurka. That is him and me all together. Please applause to him. The thing is that Evgen doesn't wait for change. He changes. He makes change happen. In people like him, I see our future. Some might know Evgen as an Arctic Circle communications mountaineer, but I met him right back in the past when he was a guitarist in the famous Odessa band. Evgen has been defending Ukraine since the very beginning of full-scale Russian invasion, and it was his undisputable decision. Starting as volunteer and rising to the deputy head of the field communications unit in the 39th Brigade. When I ask Evgen about the army, he says that he is very happy to see the changes. And of course, there is still a lot of things to improve. Recently, Evgen and his team came up with an idea that could save the lives of those who are responsible for equipment on the front line. They are working on a system of remote control of essential field equipment. That means launching, turning off, and even charging batteries can now be from the safe distance. But the main idea isn't just to help the 38th Brigade. The main goal is bigger. The idea is to bring this innovation to every brigade on the front line, to save the lives of those who risk it every single day. And here is where you, ladies and gentlemen, can become a part of a real, meaningful, powerful change. The system is almost complete. The only thing is missing is a generator. The price of life-saving piece of equipment is $900. So far, I have already gathered $600, and $300 is more to go to make it happen. There is the chance to help protect those who protect Ukraine, as with that, all Europe itself. There is a QR code for Ukrainian Monobank gathering, and there is the link to PayPal. The fundraising takes place on my Instagram page, where updates and reports will be shared. So today, I brought you just one of many transformations that are happening every single day in Ukraine. And it is very important to notice good changes and help to change the negative aspects as well. Do not allow yourself to be part of only one positive or negative bubble. Ask yourself frequently, What do you see when you read the news? Where is your focus? Because our focus is on our vision. And all together, we will win. All together, we will win.
We will win.
All together, 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 we will win.
I'll also repeat this information in Ukrainian, if you allow. Друзі, всім привіт! Мене звати Катерина, я український номад, постійно переїжджаю з однієї країни в іншу, дуже багато і часто буваю вдома. У мене багато друзів і родичів служать на фронті. І один з них це Євген Кучурка. Ми з ним познайомилися в Одесі, коли він був гітаристом. Потім також минулого він також був communication arts engineer, навіть не знаю, як це перекласти. Але зараз він на фронті. І з перших днів окупації він пішов захищати нас. З просто волонтера, потім до командувача бригади, і зараз він вже замначальник польового вузла комунікації. Як каже Женя, зв'язок – це нерв війни. Дуже важливо, щоб всі були на зв'язку, бо тільки завдяки зв'язку ми можемо здійснювати якісь операції. Нема зв'язку, нема людини. Але як вони взагалі монтують і ремонтують ці зв'язки? Є великі вишки, на які вони забираються, і ремонтують зв'язок на вишках. В цей момент на фронтлайні, вони знаходяться на Херсонському напрямку, запускають росіяни дуже багато дронів. Інколи ребятам доводиться прямо з рушниці збивати ці дрони, які летять на них. Наші хлопці також їх прикривають. І вже ж буває, що відбуваються смерті. Тому Женя і його команда, вони придумали таку ідею дистанційного управління цими пристроями. Він же її розробив і дуже багато чого, там різні компоненти. Я взяла на себе відповідальність зібрати на компонент такий, як генератор. Я вже зібрала сума $900, я вже зібрала 600, залишилось 300. Тут є QR-код на мою монобанку, також є PayPal для ваших друзів, які іноземці. Цей збір проводиться на моїй сторінці, це дуже прозоро, ви можете побачити там відео з Євгеном, його фотографії, я також відмітила його в моєму пості. І також на цій сторінці я зроблю звіт, де ви побачите пересування з монобанки, а також останні 6 місяців пересування на моєму PayPal. Тому, будь ласка, долучайтесь, і це, мені здається, дуже класна ініціативна ідея. Це одна з одних, яких я знаю, але їх дуже багато. В принципі, з мене все. Дякую вам. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Thank you, Great Britain, for your support. Слава Україні!
Дякую. Друзі, я також хотів би трішки сказати два слова для українськомовних людей на нашому протесті. Я думаю, у нас ще є час. Вже мало часу, але я все рівно ще трішки щось скажу. Я думаю, нам всім треба чітко розуміти, що падіння іранського режиму у наших інтересах. Хто б це не зробив, це неважливо. Іран, якщо він паде, це нам допоможе. Звісно, не можна очікувати на те, що зараз Росія перестане використовувати шахеди, тому що, як я вже раніше сказав, вони виробляють шахеди в себе, у своїй країні в цей момент. Іран майже в цьому не участвує. Іран вже їм здав цю технологію у замін на air defense, на повітряний захист. Цей повітряний захист, до речі, дуже погано себе показав. Тепер, коли ізраїльтяни б'ють по різним позиціям в Ірані. Вони дуже погано себе показали. Ще раз, російська зброя показує себе як зброя для лузерів, які просто не можуть купити собі кращу зброю від американців, або від французів, або від британців. Це якби для тих, що не мають грошей зброї. Але важливо сказати, друзі, що нам треба бути обережним, кому ми даємо нашу підтримку в цей момент. Наші друзі, іранська опозиція, вони завжди були на нашому боці, тому я думаю, все по-чесному, щоб ми також їх підтримували. Але нам треба бути дуже обережно, бо в цей момент є деякі групи людей, деякі ідеології, які підтримують Іран. іноді це буває просто тому, що їм не подобається, хто воює з Іраном. Я думаю, ви розумієте, про що я говорю. Нам треба бути дуже обережними, щоб ми не опинились на тому самому протесті, у якому граються з прапором аятола іранців. Нам ніколи не можна підтримувати тих, які підтримують Іран, які підтримують Північну Корею, які підтримують Росію. Не можна це робити, друзі. Треба бути дуже обережними з цим всім. Тому я всіх вас перепрошую завжди, дуже прошу. Підтримуйте кого хочете, це у вас є ця воля, але не підтримуйте наших ворогів. Треба бути дуже уважними з цим, дуже обережними. Якщо бачите прапор аятола Ірану, просто підіть з цього протесту, не підтримуйте їх, не стійте на тому самому місці. Не кажіть таку фігню на кшталт, що є парочка цих прапорів, але в більшій частині там інші прапори, я ті інші підтримую. Ні, нам не можна це робити. Коли український прапор видно з боку від іранського аятола прапора, вибачайте, друзі, але це повний нонсенс, це виглядає просто тупо. Це ми виглядаємо тупими, що ми не розуміємо, коли ми підтримуємо наших ворогів. Ну так що це за ідіотизм? Це минулого тижня я таке побачив тут, що прийшли люди з іранським прапором, помахали перед нами тут. І я навіть сказав, мені цей прапор не подобається, а один чувак там озвірів, так, а чого не подобається, а я вас підтримую. Та блін, яка різниця, що він каже, кого він там підтримує? Він з прапором нашого ворога. А це треба розуміти. Для тих, хто не знає, різниця між іранським прапором добрим і іранським прапором поганим у тому, що посередині там є біла стрічечка, посередині в іранському прапорі. Погані іранці, ті, що підтримують аятола, там такий символ, що трішки схожий на віси. Це символ аятола. Добрі іранці, це ті, що ми їх підтримуємо, у них є лев з мечем і сонце ззаді того лева. Нам треба, я розумію, що це іноді тяжко зрозуміти ці всі символи, цю всю символіку. Також є червона стрічечка і зелена стрічечка на тому самому прапорі. Але важлива частина – це посередині. Біла стрічка з левом, ззаді нього сонце, і в нього у лапі меч. Оце прапор добрих іранців. А якщо бачите той самий прапор, але без лева, із символом аятола, вибачайте, друзі, не можна ходити на ці протести. Знову ж таки, всі мають волю робити те, що вони хочуть. Але нам треба розуміти, що ми не можемо з дуру підтримувати наших ворогів. Це ж те ж саме, як поїхати тепер у Крим на канікули. От ви знаєте, я вам чесно скажу, мене дуже шокувало. Навіть іноді люди, яких я знаю, що до початку повномасштабки, собі поїхали у Крим повідпочивати. Прикольно. Крим уже захомутали москалі, а ми туди йдемо відпочити. А, я не в політиці, а мені нема різниці. Ідіотизм. От якраз через такий ідіотизм у нас і є ця війна. Через дурних людей, які думають, ой, яка там різниця, я просто відпочити хочу. Але найбільше через тих людей, що казали, з Росією нужно дружити. Оце люди, на яких можна показати пальцем і сказати, дякую, друзі, через вас у нас війна. Бо на це подивились росіяни і подумали, опа, а українці, вони не будуть захищатись, вони нас люблять, вони хочуть дружити з нами, в лапках. Так що, друзі, це просто інформація одної дуже неприємної речі, яку я помітив минулого нашого протесту в неділю. У нас була тут компанія. Це дуже було неприємно, але нам треба знати, що прапори, які ми бачимо перед нами, означають, і нам треба знати, які з них наших друзів прапори, а які з них прапори наших ворогів. Так що дякую вам. And now we're going to end this rally as we started it with the Ukrainian anthem. Ще не вмерла України ні слава, ні воля. Ще нам, браття українці, усміхнеться доля.
наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці, наше тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Наше тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Ворогам України тричі!
Смерть! Смерть! Смерть!
Before you go, my friends, I will extend this rally for just another minute to inform all the English speakers here, just long story short of what I just said in Ukrainian. Be very, very careful when choosing which rallies you go to. Some people nowadays fly the Ayatollah Iranian flag in their rallies. Be very careful when you see that. The Ayatollah Iranian flag has a red and green stripe, and in the middle it has a white stripe. It has a symbol that looks like weights. It's difficult to describe, but it's a weird symbol in the middle. The good Iranian flag of the Iranian opposition, the ones who oppose the terrorist regime, has a lion with a sun behind him and a sword in its paw. Those are the good Iranians. Those are the people we can support. Please do not give your support to the Ayatollah terrorist regime. When you see it in a rally, ask yourself whether or not you want to be there. Thank you.
Мануал или это подпалось? Мануал. Ну, это компьютер. Катя Полянська. Окей, я закину.
Це, ні, PayPal сказки SL, ну так сталося. Я не знаю, як їх поміняти, мені 100 років. А Катерина Полянська там, моє ім'я, мені здається, висвітлюється.
Угу.
Ну,
Супер.
коротше, я в цей репорт, я теж зроблю відео з кролінг, ну, коротше, коли буде. Ну, трошки залишилось. Вони вже просто майже все закрили. I just was saying that it was a lot of components of this thing, and I was closing the generator. And they already gathered already for every single piece of it, and the generator is the only thing I'm missing. Yeah, so, and right now, it's actually, I think we will call it. I talked to Natalia, and she said in case.
This guy was a musician, did you say?
Yeah, he was a student. He was an Arctic mountaineer, like alpinist. I don't know how to say.
Okay, yeah,
He was doing
yeah.
also this.
Like summits.
Yeah, with the sound. And then when he returned to Ukraine, he's very also talented. Like he was also doing some automarages, doing everything with his hands. And he's a guitarist. He's been playing in famous Ukrainian Odessa band, Деньги вперед, the name. And it was very famous. After when the war started, he changed everything. He first, in the beginning, the foundation. First day he just went there as volunteer, and then joined the army. Then he was promoted, and right now he's a deputy head of field communications. That's why his main idea to make this happen in his brigade. He has 49 people right now. Guitarist, you know. And right now his main idea, the goal is to put this innovation to every brigade in the front line. When it shows that it works, then it will be to everything. It's really, I mean, that really makes it work. It's very powerful. I'm very happy because it's like, you know, he all the time tells me a lot of stories, some cool stories that what they are doing is very inspiring. So I'm very positive about that. It's really fun. I also, if you go to my Instagram, I also see, I have video with him, I also check his tag of his page.
Ну що, терапію. Всі чекають терапію.
Кому не волосся. Зараз будуть казати, що знову гей-парад будуть казати, да? Чи кучеряві. Донбас – це Іран. Цікаво. Цікавий чувак. Давайте кажіть, що сволочі в стані. Як у вас тут? Все добре? Опа. Як у гарно? Що? Нині самому?
Самому важко було нині говорити.
А ні, нормально. Без проблем.
Хто прийде, як його?
Томас?
Томас має прийде, я не прийшов.
Не прийшов, то не прийшов. Та ні, я можу довше, ніж 2 години, це невелика проблема. Проблема це коли полен літає, тоді тяжко говорити з цим. Воно забивається в роті.
Може прийшла, по-моєму.
Нема. Сьогодні нічого нема, сьогодні на щастя все було дуже гарно, все дуже добре пройшло, так сказати. Не було ніяких
See you
проблем.
next month.
Монт? Місяць наступний? Щасливо. Бачення. Так, що тут кажуть? У вас гей-клуб. Обережно. Тут ці, що зациклені на гей-клубі, зі мною говорять. Я ж з тобою привітався, да, Владі? Вже вітався. Зациклені на гей-клубі завжди, блін. Знов за гей-клуб говорять, блін. В душ, говорить, схожу, попу помить. Боже мій, дякую за інформацію, чувак. Я в шоці. Вас в гей-клуб безплатно впускають, якщо паспорт України показати, це питання.
Да ты еще, блядь, свой прибор не забудь помыть, блядь.
Я не знаю, про що він говорить. Гей-клуб, як інший клуб, туди зайти зазвичай безплатно, блін. Я не знаю, про що ти говориш, чувак. Що з тебе хтось здирає гроші, якщо ти туди зайдеш. Можливо, здерли. Бачиш, можливо, здерли з нього. Якийсь неадекват приперся. Він, мабуть, з свого досвіду говорить. Вже має цьому досвід, та і за це говорить. Да.
Штраф за
Расскажи,
то, что ты хуйло.
почему с родины убежали бы. Расскажи через А.
Не, все правильно, расскажи.
То через О має, ні?
Ну, у нас через А.
Через А? Расскажи, так правильно?
через А.
Ну да, через «а».
Расскажи.
Правильно так?
А як ти думаєш, український розкажи?